Hello everyone and welcome to another collections showcase. So as you will have previously seen, I did for my Christmas special, I did a collection showcase about some recent Dalek prototypes that I had acquired. But around the same time I also acquired some Doctor ones, some of which you'll see here. But there's a few here as well which I'd actually acquired a bit further back into the year, which again, because I was on my break, I didn't post about. So I thought I'd do all of the Doctors in a separate video of their own. So here they all are, but we're going to look at them one by one, and we're going to start with one of the ones that's probably been seen most around the internet recently. So we're going to start with the one that most people have probably seen around most recently. It is this 10th Doctor in his brown coat, but this is a prototype version which has not just a ball shoulder joint, but most notably it also has the bicep swivel. Now, other new thing there is on this as well is the coat itself is actually new because the patterning on the back is different. So it is a new coat sculpt. Interestingly though, I think that the wrists themselves, those who've taken apart a 10th Doctor will know that the wrists are just slotted in, they're not on a rotatable peg, and that hasn't been altered. So I would assume that new parts on this figure are the coat, the torso to fit the new ball joint, and then the shoulder and upper part of the bicep is lower part, sorry, of the bicep. It would seem that the lower part of the arm is the standard one. There's also no leg bicep, thigh, that's the word I was looking for. There's no thigh articulation on there, but this one got a lot of people talking and debating this, because obviously there were quite a few available. They've now all sold out that they were on eBay, but people were questioning whether this was a future release or possibly the fact that it could have been a fake or things like that. I can confirm it is actually genuine. Because after getting this one, I got in touch with Aljuar at Character Options, and he confirmed. Now I'm going to word this very carefully to make sure that I don't give the wrong impression. He said to me that this is a past prototype. This is not indicative of anything in the future. It is a past one that was never released. However, that is not to say that it isn't possible that it could be used in future. There are no plans, as far as I am aware, or as far as was said to me, that there are plans to use this in future, but obviously the tooling exists, so him saying we may use it in future is very much that. May, possibly, maybe, unconfirmed. But this is indeed a past prototype, and this is the speculation on my part, because I don't like to probe and question too much when I talk to him, you know, because I do appreciate, you know, the information he gives me, so, you know, I don't like to push my luck by asking too much. But if I was to speculate on this, I would say this was probably going to be released as part of the 13 Doctors box set, simply because of the weathering on the shoes, and the overall figure is basically the same as what was in that set. So it would make sense that this was perhaps going to be put in that set, but obviously for whatever reason never got released. It never got you know, produced in mass numbers, rather than the, you know, batches of prototypes that were out there. So it's certainly an interesting one, and definitely one that I hope would see a release in future, because it is definitely one that I think the fans would be very happy to see. I would like to think that if they did release this, they would also eventually go to the expense of retooling the legs as well to give the thigh swivel. But for now, you know, it's a really nice piece to have. It's definitely one that I think people are going to be looking for many years as a prototype, even if there is an official version released later on. Yeah, it's a really nice piece, and certainly one that got people clamouring to find it. Next up we have another 10th Doctor, but obviously there are 3 here on screen. The middle one is the, for lack of a better word, prototype, but we'll come back to why I say that in a minute. On the left is the original BBC store, BBC shop release that came in just a little plastic bag. And then on the right is the later release, what I call the Diamond Select release, which has the holographic banding on it, which obviously wasn't on the original one. But the one in the center is a glittery version, and I'm trying to work out the best way to do this so you can sort of see. You can see the glitter in it if I tilt it against the light. Now, there is a bit of debate over whether this is a prototype or not, because I, like many people, thought it was a prototype. But when I did a bit more research, it does seem that some people did get these in the BBC shop version when they originally ordered them. So I think it could possibly be an early test batch, or possibly an early test batch that then got put out for release, or maybe a variant. Either way, at the very least, it's a rare variant. Put it that way. I'm unsure as to whether it is a prototype or not. That is up for debate, but it is definitely one that is different to, you know, to the released ones, as you can see. It's also interesting that the face detailing is a lot less defined as well. So yeah, so bit of debate on that one, but certainly still an interesting piece, and definitely one that looks very good. You know, next to the two released versions. Next up, we have the 11th Doctor figure, which is the prototype is in the centre, and then on the left we have the original Snowmen release. On the right we have the later B&M release. In the centre is what appears to be a prototype version of the B&M one, because it has, the colouring is closer to the Snowmen release, as you can see, but the design in terms of its build is closer to the B&M release. So this certainly does seem to be an early B&M prototype version. You can also see, it's quite difficult to capture on camera, you can just see it, that the collar and the brace bits on the coat are a much lighter grey, which is interesting. The tie and shirt have actually got a bit more of a gloss sheen to them, and weirdly enough, this is a little added extra for this particular version I've got. He has two right feet. It is quite difficult to capture that on camera, but when you actually get up close to it, the right foot on the prototype is the right foot, but then the left leg is also a right foot. So it's obviously, you know, when these things get put together in the factory for, you know, testing, prototyping, whatever you want to call it, obviously they just put whatever bits together. So I've actually got a factory error prototype, which is certainly something that's very interesting and not something that I've ever really come across before. But it does just make this one a little bit more unique and a bit more interesting. And it's interesting to see how close they got to going with the original Snowmen. With the original Snowmen livery. Personally, I have to say, I actually think that the B&M version on the right actually has the better look of all of these. The original version, the Snowman version, was just always a bit too bright for my liking. But yeah, so that's a very nice 11th Doctor different one that is something a bit different. A factory error prototype, not something I've ever seen before. Now next up here we have two more 11th Doctors, and I just want to say right from the off, because those who know these figures might think, well, hang on a minute, it just looks like these have had the parts swapped between them, but I want to make it clear that I actually got these months apart from each other from two completely different sellers. One was here in the UK, the other was in China. And, you know, it's certainly some very interesting pieces. There's, again, a little bit of debate about what these ones are from. So the one on the left appears to be, from what I have gathered, perhaps an early test version, hence the grey parts of the build that haven't been of the figure that haven't been painted. It's an early test version of the Doctor from series 5, possibly from the finale, or it is from the finale, because that's the specific coat he's got is from the Fez version where he's got the mop, and so I think from what I've gathered, this was possibly going to be a release version that had that particular jacket without the mop. There was a unconfirmed rumour that I had heard that there was perhaps possibly going to be a damaged 11th Doctor from the Pandoric Opens after he's been shot by the Dalek. Possibly that's what this one was going to be. I don't know, but obviously it's got, like I said, it's got some interesting parts on it. It's got the fringe and the bow tie are obviously the standard grey plastic unpainted, and then also on the arm you can see that his joint on his arm is obviously the same black, and it's also the same on the legs. That's a little bit harder to see, but it is the same sort of standard black on the legs. Now on the right here we have what is called the tiger striping 11th Doctor jacket, which is from, or was used in the Christmas Adventure, was it called, set with the TARDIS and the police Amy from A Christmas Carol. And obviously this version, as you can see, he's got the slightly different striped jacket. The shoes on this one, firstly, were the thing that actually jumped out to me first of all when I saw this, funnily enough, is that they are actually a slightly more gloss black than the standard one. The bow tie is a slightly lighter red, but obviously, interestingly enough, he has the Fez head sculpt, which was seen on the Series 5, previously mentioned Series 5 figure. Now, again, this is unconfirmed, but from the rumours and reports that I have seen, it is possible that this is an early test shot or something that they were possibly going to do with the Christmas Adventure set, because at present time the only use of this particular head sculpt was in the Series 5 11th Doctor with the fez and the broom and the mop, sorry. And from what I have gathered, it is possible that this was intended potentially to be used in the Christmas set as well, because obviously he does wear the fez in that. However, it is very difficult to verify this, and I've been asking around and I can't sort of find a concrete answer, so it is debatable whether this is a genuine piece or not. I'm still looking into it, but it kind of makes sense to me that it would be, because, as I said, they've only ever used that head sculpt once, and the very next episode following the end of Series 5 is the episode in which he wears the fez, which is the Christmas Adventure set that this comes from. So it kind of makes sense to me that perhaps they would have looked into using that head sculpt again. And I also know as well, for a fact, because I've seen it, there does exist another prototype version of the 10th Doctor from the Christmas Adventure set, in which he has a slightly different texturing of the patterns on his jacket. They're more darker, and they've got sort of two tones on them. So prototypes for that set do exist, so it does make me wonder, maybe they thought about doing several variations, and this is one of them, and then the one with the two-tone striping was another one. As I said, it's one I'm still looking into, but it definitely is one that jumps out at me as certainly one of interest. And the one on the left as well, with the different head sculpt and the unpainted parts, it certainly is an interesting one. And these sort of, like I said, both of these are very hard to confirm, but they sort of feel like they. The research that I've been able to do on this, it feels like, well, why would it not be true? If you see what I mean, like I said, it's sometimes difficult to verify these things, but it's always interesting to grab these pieces when I see them. It wouldn't be the first time that I've bought something that later turned out to be a fake, but at the same time, it wouldn't be the first time that I bought something that might have seemed to be a fake and actually turned out to be genuine. So I may have an update on these in future, we shall see. For the next little curio, we have this 4th Doctor figure, and some of you may think, well, this looks slightly like the Regeneration 4th Doctor, and that's because, well, it sort of is, because as some of you will know, the original Regeneration 4th Doctor was sold in the Amazon exclusive time capsule set, and for that set they released a promo picture which showed the 4th Doctor with a blue shirt and the boots. Now that picture is very low resolution, so it is difficult to see whether it is a paint master or whether it's an actual figure. For those who don't know, a paint master doesn't have any articulation or anything like that. It would seem to be, in the Amazon picture, I would say it's a paint master. So what I've got here I don't think is what is in the Amazon picture. But again, from what I have managed to research, it is possible that they did make up a batch of figures with that design of the blue shirt and the boots before it was changed or colour corrected or updated and worked out what needed to be done. The official line I have been given on that is that it is unlikely but not impossible. So this is perhaps again another one which I would be very sad to find out that this is not real, but as I previously said, it wouldn't be the first time that I bought something that looked very real and turned out to be fake, but it also wouldn't be the first time I bought something that seemed to be fake and turned out to be real. So this is another one which I'm skeptical about, but I have no reason to believe it isn't real at present time, because we know that a figure of that design was prototyped up in some shape or form, so it is not, again, unlikely that it was either this version that was used or that it was a batch of them were produced that did pop up at a later date and they were changed for the time capsule release and going on ahead. And it's also worth saying as well that the other thing that stands out to me about this one that makes me think that this is real is that the paintwork looks too clean to be a custom version. Like all of the jacket, lining around the jacket, all the lining on the shirt, everything like that is just, it's that level of attention to detail, and the fact that it's still got all its articulation and everything, just, it throws up, I was about to say red flags, not what I mean, it throws up green flags, put it that way. But again, you know, it's one of those ones that I've had for a while. I'm still looking into. It's quite a difficult one to find out more information about, because I have yet to see any others. I did chase up a rumour last year, possibly even the year before, that, you know, that another of these was making the rounds, but I hadn't heard anything back about that. I didn't manage to find any proof of it. Unfortunately, those other people who hunt prototypes will know that is often the way, that you do have to sort of chase things that might come to nothing, but you never know. That's part of the fun of it, really. The chase is the fun of hunting for prototypes. And lastly here we have a 5th and 6th Doctor prototype. So on the left-hand side, we have the Caves of Androzani 5th Doctor release that came with the TARDIS. Moving in one to the second from the left, we have what appears to be, or certainly seems to be, a clean version, i.e. pre-weathering version of the Caves of Androzani 5th Doctor. We then have what seems to be an early, very early, because it is, as you can see, rather scratched and scuffed in places, pre-paint version of the figure that is on the far right, which is the official Regeneration 6th Doctor. So the 5th Doctor, first of all, again, that just seems to be pretty much just a straight up unweathered version. You know, I've seen this floating around. I know a few other people have got them as well, And you know, it makes sense that this one would come out coinciding with the, you know, with the fact that the B&M one has been released, and obviously the B&M one would have the weathering put on it afterwards. So you know, it is just an unweathered version. That's really all there is to say about that one. But it's a nice piece. You know, the colouring on it's very nice. But moving on to the Sixth Doctor, this is the one that is the interesting one, because I've been chasing this one around for a while, and I was very sceptical and dubious about this one because it did look rather not suspect, but when it comes to these older ones, they're difficult to sort of follow up and work out if they're real or not, as it were. And as you can see, you know, this has got sort of, you know, factory paint marks on the, you know, it's got this green paint here, around there. It's also got some red paint around the face. The face itself is rather scuffed. There's scuff marks here. There's also some writing here. There's a bit of scuff on the hand as well. And if I turn it around, you can see a bit more on the back. Also some writing there, some more scuff marks here as well, which sort of makes sense because given how old this figure is, you know, released now, if this has been going around wherever it's been, you know, that it's been passed around through different collections and you know, the market and whatever like that. But the other interesting thing I find about it as well is there are several things on this which stand out to me as different to the released version. As you can see, the released version is here. Now, the first thing is, obviously, is that it would be very easy for somebody just to take a Sixth Doctor head and put it onto there. However, some of you may know the Sixth Doctor head on the Regeneration version is a very different one because it has the peg built in as part of the head, and this might be difficult to capture on camera, but this version does have, I mean, if I really pull on that, you can see that that's not coming off because, again, it's difficult to capture, but this is actually the version that is on the peg on the head. So that was the first thing, that it has the right type of head, and that it's not been altered. The body hasn't had a peg fitted in it, or that it hasn't been, you know, hasn't had the head cut off of a Fifth Doctor and glued onto the original peg. It's the proper head that's in there. The second point is the colour of the coat is, as you can see, a slightly lighter colour than the release version, which is, I would say, it's more closer akin to perhaps some of the later Fifth Doctor releases we've had, such as the Resurrection of the Daleks version, which obviously this body was used for. Again, I considered that this, you know, this version could have been the Resurrection body, but again, there's the subtle differences on it just make it slightly different. One of the most notable being that the pattern on the trousers is noticeably different. On the release version and on the Resurrection Fifth Doctor, it is much more a solid sort of cream on the piping which matches the coat, whereas on this one, again, it's difficult to capture on camera, but this is a slightly more faded pinkish hue, which sort of, you know, it's almost as if it's not been had more than one coat applied over the top of the trousers, which is one thing that you know, it just looks more, not rushed, but it looks like it hasn't had the same amount of quality control put into it. Like, again, it is an early test piece. And the other thing as well I noticed is you might be able to see here, there's a line on the trousers here that is missing. Now, again, not impossible that could have been a factory error, but it doesn't line up correctly, and whichever way you line up the other stripes, there is a definite line missing there. So again, it's the idea possibly that this was, you know, didn't have the same amount of quality control put in it because it was an early test piece, and it would explain why the weathering's not put on there, you know. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's another interesting one that I need to sort of do a bit more research into it, but all of the factors that sort of lead me to believe that it's a real piece seem to line up. You know, so yeah, this might be another one, you know, along with the 11th Doctors, you know, and the 4th Doctor. I might do an update to this video in future. I would hope with some good news to say, hey, these are all verified and genuine. Fingers crossed. We'll see what pops up. But for now, that is the last of my prototypes I have to show you for today. But that brings to a close another collections showcase. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot. And be sure to go to the description below for a link to my Patreon. I'm doing my very first figure animation and you can get involved. There's exclusive content and rewards for those who do so, and funding my Patreon in any way gets your name at the end of my videos. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.